Hi, this is Dr. Michelle Robin with Small Changes, Big Shifts, Building Rhythm and Resilience. And I believe if you'll change one thing a month, one thing for the next 12 months, you'll change your life forever. Thanks for joining me on the journey.
Well, it's awesome. I'm live streaming today from my lake house, so I've got a funny background, but I'm delighted to have you with us today.
Awesome.
And I want to give a shout out to Paul Long, who put your work on my mind and on my map, and I reached out to you and you said yes. So let me finish introducing you. Your son Max was 4 years old. He was diagnosed with a rare and aggressive brain tumor. Max's treatment, recovery, and journey into survivorship led Justin and Audra to found MaxLove Project to help other families thrive in childhood cancer treatment and beyond. The MaxLove Project team is made up of a group of extraordinary, dedicated individuals who are passionate about improving the lives of all super kids and super families, and works behind the scenes to support the mission of the organization. You believe that statistics are not destiny, and you are changing the odds of families facing childhood cancers with evidence-based integrative wellness and culinary medicine. And so thank you for joining me today on Small Changes, Big Shifts.
Oh, thanks for having us.
We're thrilled to be here.
So I'm curious, Audra, I believe you have a background in public policy and nutrition. So first of all, share a little bit, what was your life like before Max got cancer?
Oh my gosh, it seems like a lifetime ago. But I actually went to culinary school when I was kind of in between shifts in college, finishing college, and then I went to graduate school. But I did go to culinary school at one point in between there. And I remember Justin said to me, he's like, at some point it's going to make sense why you've done all of these different things. At some point it's going to land for us. We don't know exactly how all these interests come together, but we're going to figure it out. So before and when Max was diagnosed, I was actually a leadership educator. I was working in higher education. So I was working in a very different field than what my training was in. But I worked with women at an all women's college, and then I worked at a community college on youth leadership development. So that is what I was doing when Max was diagnosed. And I'll never forget in the PICU, the first couple of nights, it became very, very clear. All of the worlds came together, all of that training, everything that all of our interests kind of collided into the space of empowerment.
You know, it's interesting. The word that has come to me over and over the last 90 days has been waffle. And I think about a waffle kind of having different overlapping. And it sounds like that's what you experienced, overlapping. And I love your title, Chief Hope Officer. Chief Hope Officer. Well, on this show, Small Changes, Big Shifts, we want to celebrate people doing great work. We want to give people guidance of how to navigate. We all have cancers of life, and it may be a physical cancer, it could be an emotional cancer. We want to give them, connect them with great resources, and we want to most of all provide hope. I think there's a scripture about when we don't have hope, the people perish. So thank you for joining me. And so Justin, what's your pre-Max cancer story, before and after?
So it was just about 9 years ago next week that when Max was diagnosed. And I had just graduated with a PhD in cultural geography. I was just finishing up the edits on a book, turning my dissertation into a book and getting ready to go out on the job market, which is an international job market. So we were ready to go. And I was teaching. At the time, I drove up to teach, and in the break, we took a break halfway through my class, and I look on my phone, and Audra had texted me. She said, we're in an ambulance on the way to the hospital, and then another text, it's a tumor. And I couldn't finish the class. I asked my TAs to do whatever they wanted for the rest of the time, and that really was a massive turning point. I had trouble finishing the edits on the book, even though the book was written. I was like, I don't care about this stuff anymore. The stuff I'm working on, only a handful of other scholars around the world care about this stuff. And so I finished it, got a few other research projects out the door, and then I said, I'm done. I need to find something more that's going to impact more people than what I'm doing. Audra had started MaxLove Project, and it started small, and I had nothing to do with the world of health. I was working in the social sciences, nothing to do with the world of health. And slowly but surely, I just fell in love with what Audra and Max were doing and wanted to be a part of it. So we all kind of grew together. And then I eventually decided I have to go back to school. I want to design programs because I'm an educator at heart. So I want to take complex science, translate it into very easy bite-sized chunks, and then design programs that will help families engage in behaviors that are going to improve quality of life and reduce long-term health risks related to childhood cancer. But I realized I didn't have a background in health or program design or evaluation, so I decided to go back and get another PhD. Which, you know, isn't real great because I don't get any extra letters at the end of my name. It's still PhD, but that was a
square PhD square.
It was a fantastic experience. I learned so much, and I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity to do it. And so now I design programs and evaluate programs, and I'm a health educator.
Well, we're celebrating you. And before we start talking about guidance and talk about, obviously, you're both educators. How great is that? I want to, you know, we mentioned in the bio, it talked about all the other people helping you. You know, you have these extraordinary, dedicated individuals who are helping you. Why don't you give a shout out and tell us about who those people are? And maybe there's some new people that want to join your team because of their own journey.
Oh, that's great. I really, really love recognizing the village that it takes to really not only lift a cause off the ground, but to be able to keep us moving. Mm-hmm. So our team is comprised of some really, really incredible individuals. We have some beautiful volunteers. We do have a board of directors. And so when you start a nonprofit organization, you know, you're a corporation, you have to incorporate, you have to bring on a board of directors. And we ended up recruiting a group of really, really talented women. We're actually an all women board. And these are women who are attorneys, and we've got a really broad range of skills that are brought to the table. We have interior designers, we have artists. It's really amazing. We also work with farmers. So I want to give a big shout out to Farmer Glenn Tanaka here locally in Irvine. He's an amazing support to us. We have a really beautiful group of chefs. We call this group our Gold Apron Society. And these are chefs who step up to offer cooking classes for us. They create recipes and videos and offer workshops and support our online culinary medicine programming. We do have a group of artists. We absolutely deliver our programming with an eye towards beauty. There's more to all of this, you know, kind of than just the scientific content, right? And so we have artists working with us. We have child life specialists. We have dietitians. We could not do this without our really passionate, functional medicine-oriented dietitians. We have about 250 local volunteers that show up to help us do everything from set up events, you know, pre-COVID to mail out letters and things like that. My right hand in the office, Paula, is a jack of all trades, and we have people supporting us with social media, good energy on social media, helping to compel our cause and really get the messaging out further. And then I think really the meat and the core of the people who show up for MaxLove are the MaxLove families. So MaxLove Project is not Justin and I. MaxLove Project is a group of over 1,500 families really around the world who provide mutual support to each other. We're an empowered community of caregivers. And that is MaxLove Project. We are a family.
What is the word? Go ahead, Justin.
Oh, I would be remiss if we don't give a shout out to two special healers in our journey as well. Dr. Bill Loudon at Children's Hospital of Orange County and Dr. Ruth McCarty, who is also at Chalk and who we share an office with, and she's a pediatric acupuncturist. And they have both been, and adults, and they have both been just central from day one, a part of MaxLove Project.
I love that you go back and think about who else has inspired you or helped you or poured water on this vision, or poured fire, gasoline to help it grow. And so for our listeners today, I would love for you to celebrate what's working in your life. We're in this very fascinating time right now where it's easy to see what's not working. So I want you to be focused on today, and maybe even put in the comment section who you're celebrating on your journey, to the people listening today. Or if you're watching this after and you're not live with us, consider celebrating that. I know for me, when I focus on what is working, it kind of it kind of waters down what isn't working. I don't want to tell you that I'm a Pollyanna and I've got shift not working in my life just like everybody else. But the more I focus on what is working, the more grateful I am. So the word empower, I'm a kind of a word nerd. What does the word empower mean to you, Justin?
Well, the word empower, this is a word that was really at the beginning of MaxLove Project. In the first week in the hospital, Max had undergone a really massive brain surgery, and he was intubated for several days. And Audra and I took turns in that first week just crying. Like, we would take turns breaking down. And then there was a day, it was maybe, 4 or 5 days into it, where we both had kind of taken turns, and then we just stopped and we looked at each other and we said, we're going to do this. Whatever it takes, we are going to do this. And there was a sense of just empowerment there of whatever we can do, whatever is within our control, we are going to do. That said, the empowerment journey for us has been this really fascinating growth, because I think it started from a place of just, we are going to power through no matter what, to a place now where we are, I think we have a sense of accepting what we can't control and drawing on the support of others, not doing it alone, practicing self-compassion. So we've brought in a bunch of other things that I think at the beginning it was this sense of empowerment of, we just got to do it. We're just going to do it no matter what. And then realizing there's a lot of other tools to bring on this empowerment journey as well. Audra, do you want to add to that?
Oh, I think that's great. I do. I think what you're getting at are some of the contours of empowerment, because the implication to start is that, especially with this word, it's a little bit of a difficult word, I think, too, because I think there's an implication of a transfer of power almost, right? And we're looking at kind of what comes from within. And in many ways, it's a mindset. It is an approach to life. It's about, what can we do? What can we make of this journey, as opposed to what we can't do, or what we're restricted from, or what can we provide, as opposed to looking at something that is of a depriving kind of nature. It's about provision. I think of that third day in the hospital with our neurosurgeon who we had mentioned, and he looked at me and he said, "You've got to get it together. Get yourself a notebook, get a pencil, and you write down everything that we say, everything." And he said, "You are your child's best advocate. You are crucial to this team. You need to show up. Your child's your only case." And I think that almost permission from the very beginning, from our neurosurgeon, our first doctor in this critical care situation, was huge. That's an example of empowerment in the sense of somebody who's in a position of power saying that this really is, up to you. But I think what, Justin, you're getting at is that there's a journey with empowerment where you start to learn that it's not necessarily all about the fight or all about what we bring to it, but it's about the community we build. It's about the acceptance and sometimes even surrender.
Yes.
And so I think we've the word has gained contours for us.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a big quality of life component here that I think for a lot of parents entering the childhood cancer journey, there is this feeling of cure, go back to normal, get this thing done. And now, as we are 9 years into this journey, it's about how can we make today a good day? How can we make today a day where quality of life is as high as it can be today?
How can we live our best days together?
Yes.
And this was another gift from our neurosurgeon. I think that same meeting on day 3, he said, you need to focus on your son's quality of life. Treatment will only do so much.
Wow, could that translate to today? Well, first of all, I got to unpack a few things you said there. The first one is mindset. I was talking with a friend of mine who's a fellow foodie out in California in the Valley, Tess Masters today, the Blender Girl. You might know Tess if you guys are your foodies, obviously. And we were talking about mindset and how important that is. And the next thing you said that really just went right to my heart, and I've been speaking a lot to corporations, and we were talking about giving yourself permission. And so like giving yourself permission to actually dial in and tune into this conversation, but what are your takeaways? And so as the people are listening, if you can share any of your takeaways or love for Audra and Justin, that would be awesome. Just so much wisdom here and thinking about empowering. So I want to, it's so easy to take this conversation and make it about COVID, but I really want to, I call it COVID with a little c, just like with cancer. And you guys make cancer, when you empower it, you make it from a big C, like, oh my God, the big C to a little c. And so you guys have helped people navigate little c cancer by empowering them and encouraging them. And one thing that you do, Audra, with integrative medicine is you talk about fierce foods, anti-cancer nutrition. And this is advice for anybody, I would believe. One of my mentors, actually, we just emailed back and forth today, Carol, we're actually talking about somebody who has cancer. And she said, why is it we get a diagnosis that we're dying before we start living?
Yes.
So to anybody listening, if you're hearing the little word C or the little word COVID, I believe the lessons you're going to teach us today, the guidance you're going to give us would be adequate just for, quote, normal health. What would you say about that, Audra?
Absolutely. Yeah. We, the Fierce Foods philosophy was a really powerful journey for us coming to learn the power of whole foods. And I think, we call our program Fierce Foods because there's a negative connotation with healthy, right? I think, I don't know that food is healthy or not. You may, be on a health journey as an individual. Food is a part of that in terms of nourishment. I don't know that we can label food as healthy or not healthy in and of itself. But for us, the Fierce Foods journey and philosophy is all about providing an accessible gathering place for our families. And to us, Fierce really describes the powerful quality of this food, the energetic quality of what we're talking about, the nourishing quality, and it doesn't turn kids off and families off. I mean, we're on this journey, and if someone were to say to me, hey, you want to go to that new healthy restaurant? I'll say, I don't know if I'm that excited about it. So there is something about for us, the intentionality of the language we're using around this is a powerful part of it. We believe that there are so many different conversations around food. There's so many different labels. There's so many different dietary names, dietary strategies. There's camps, there's ideology, there's dogmas. We're trying to cut through all of that and get down to the basics. And one of the things that we do know that is shown in the data and in the science is that when we choose to and have access to utilize whole foods, we are better off. And that's something that there's really no arguing around. Now, layer on top of that your own health goals. Layer on top of that your own maybe cultural background, for example. Maybe there are other sorts of, kind of like, again, contours to that for you. So we meet families where they are. This is not a one-size-fits-all approach. It's not about one book, one dogma, one name. It's about connecting families to an approach with nutrition in their home that will serve them. And that's going to be completely unique for everybody, but it does come down to that foundation of whole foods. And we find that when kids grow their food or cook their food or have their hands on it or have that empowerment, right, have that access to it, they are much more apt to take ownership of utilizing food as medicine and bringing food into their own journey. And so that's been a really big part of our what we call culinary medicine programming. The culinary part is, getting in the kitchen, learning some of those skills, learning culinary skills, but in a therapeutic manner with food, which again is something different for everyone, whether you are diabetic, autoimmune, for us for the cancer journey, depending on the cancer, depending on who you are, there's a lot of variables to take into consideration, but it's our goal to help families mindfully consider what serves them in building kind of a nourishing platform for food as medicine, in their home.
I'm going to bullet point what you just said mindfully. And I think about tuning in. So a question I have for myself is when I wake up in the morning, I look at how I'm feeling. And if I'm not feeling so great, I try to think, okay, why am I not feeling so great? And if I'm feeling great, I think, okay, why am I feeling great? And so you got to dial in for yourself and figure out what's working for you. So there's ding, ding, ding guidance right there is to pay attention. Give yourself permission to pay attention to being your own best doctor for yourself. So I love that you mentioned that. You also mentioned whole foods. And if people don't know where to start, we've got your Fierce Food Academy, which I want you to talk about the Academy part of that in just a second. But I also want to give a shout out to Melissa with Whole Foods, the Whole 30 movement. She's done a great job with tons of education and the Whole 30. Whole30.com, I believe it is. So talk about the Academy piece and how people could from all over the world engage in that.
So our Fierce Foods Academy is a collection of our culinary medicine programming. And we started with this, I think it was back in 2013. I was cooking for Max and he was doing really, really well going through treatment. And people were saying, what are you doing? How is he doing so well? And as a trained cook, someone who went to culinary school, I have experience in the industry. I was a line cook. It was still hard for me to modify foods for Max. I'm thinking, what about it? Like, people who don't have the training that I have, right? And it was really, really heartbreaking to hear, I'm defeated. I don't feel empowered in the kitchen. This is the worst. I feel, overwhelmed. I feel like I cannot, utilize food as medicine. This is something that's not for me from other moms. So I said, hey, I'll just start offering some cooking classes. Why not? And we did it locally here in Southern California at whatever little teaching kitchen, preschool, daycare center, like wherever we could offer cooking classes and bring families in. And I just started showing families how I did what I do. And I thought, if I could help another mom be 5 stepping stones ahead of where I started, because I wasted a lot of money. I wasted a lot of resources. There are a lot of things that failed, but I knew from my training that it's just about tweaking and trying again. It's just about persistence. It's not about, failure. We didn't fail here. We're innovating, right? And so we started with these cooking classes, and then we started to build educational materials and resources. We built a Facebook support group. We started sending out kits of different food products and things like that to our families. And that built to a really robust culinary medicine program, especially the in-person program here locally. We have been offering really wonderful cooking classes, both inside children's hospitals and in our community. So we built a program with a mobile teaching kitchen, and we've been building curriculum and studying this mobile teaching kitchen with 3 children's hospital partners now for the past since 2017. It is a beautiful program. Interestingly enough, the COVID pandemic hits. We can't do any of this in-person programming anymore, and we fully lean into online support and online programming. And just this past weekend, we have a cooking class now at least once a month. Families all over the country, even around the world. And this one on Sunday, was so beautiful to see kids cooking along together with our chef here from across the country. And so it's given us the opportunity to go to new places and continue to innovate and to continue to reach out and to look for scalability for this program. We do have facets to the Fierce Foods program. One of those facets is support and guidance with the ketogenic diet. And I want to give a shout out to our friends at the Metabolic Health Summit. And Metabolic Health Summit, we have a just beautiful community of doctors, clinicians, nurses, researchers, therapists, community members who have all found really, really pretty incredible health benefits through a metabolic approach. And that is something that is our personal journey aligns with. Max has thrived on a ketogenic diet now for 7 years. And so for the families for whom that approach is well indicated to support their journey, we're there for them because it's a really radical, major shift and change. It's a smaller percentage of our families. Most families do not need to go to that approach, but some do, especially our brain tumor families. So that's something that is a facet. We do have it. In other words, we have a tailored facet to the Fierce Foods program too, depending on what the needs may be.
So much good work you're doing. Justin, I want you to talk about being an educator and having a PhD squared. Talk about some of the health programs you have in place. Any additional ones you want to share?
Yeah. So my my second dissertation was on online social support. It was about how can patients, or in our case, parents, learn from each other? How can they support each other? What sort of benefits do they get just from the emotional bonds? And then what sort of informational and health behavior change can occur in these relationships? And so online social support has been a huge focus of ours, and then also online courses. And so we started out focusing all of our educational efforts to in-person cooking classes. And this was back in 2013, 2014. And it was fantastic. There's just a wonderful energy. But we, of course, with childhood cancer, this is a worldwide phenomenon, and it's a relatively rare disease. And so we can get a pretty good community going here in Southern California. But what about families in Nebraska or, Iowa or Maine? Kansas City, exactly.
Kansas City.
And so
Absolutely.
we were connecting with all of these in our online support group. And so the move has really for us has been to just move more and more things online. But also, as we do, how can we make it really high impact? How can we make it high touch and also online? So one of the silver linings of COVID has been to really kind of speed up the pace at which we've been trying to do this. So those are the two things that I really focus on: online social support and then online education. So we continue to build new programs along these lines, and we're going to have an app that hopefully will be out by maybe by the end of the year, we'll see. And it's going to really just focus on these two big things, where parents can take courses related to our Be Super Action Plan, which I would love to talk about if we get a chance. So parents will get to take courses, and they'll get to take them with other parents so they can support each other in these courses. But we'll also have just social support spaces and times and resources that are just about connection. And I'm sure you know this, but social support in itself is a health behavior. I mean, the research on this is just beyond dispute, that when we feel supported, when we feel emotionally seen and heard, when we feel that we belong to a community, our health outcomes are demonstrably better. And so it's not only important that we get these other health behavior pieces in line, but I think maybe the most important health behavior piece might be this social connection. So we're working on these programs. I don't know if I want to say a lot more about the details, since we're right in the middle of developing an app that hopefully will be out by the end of the year for our parents.
Well, there's always a vision out there of things to make it better. And I love that about what you're doing. And it is a great time to give a shout out to one of our community partners in Kansas City is Advent Health. And they also have a cancer center that works with MD Anderson, as well as they have an integrative couple integrative doctors, Dr. Teresa and Megan Schlick are two of their naturopathic doctor, and they've got an integrative MD. So I just want to give a shout out to Advent Health for them continuing to think forward. And they're great community partners and help build connection. They actually have a big event coming up called Living in Vitality, or Live in Vitality. And Dr. Oz will be our virtual keynote. He was supposed to be in person, and they're doing some really cool things. And we'll put that in the show notes so you guys can all the listeners could. This year, there's not a Max. It sells out every year. And this year, because it's gone virtual, they'll be able to reach more people. There's something magical if you could look at the good side of what's happened about us all having to go online. I have to tell you, I wouldn't have met you I would not have had this connection had it not been because of COVID, because Paul Long, who I met, who's doing a day-to-day thing, and is also passionate about kids' cancer. I met you guys because of this. But I want to go back to you, Justin, and we're talking about some guidance, and use the word, I believe you used word B-E, with action.
Be Super Action Plan. Yeah, so this is our plan that we developed. We started to develop in 2014 with our medical advisory board. So when I decided to go back to school and really get serious about developing a full health behavior program, we knew that we needed a medical advisory board. So I reached out to different researchers and doctors to really help us think through what are the most important behaviors that parents can do outside of the hospital. So to go back to this idea of empowerment and disempowerment, the childhood cancer journey is very disempowering, right? So you can, you're asked basically to take your child into the hospital, hook them up, and then just hands off. And so we were concerned from day one about what could we do outside of the hospital. Yes, let's let the expert they do, but we come home, we're the experts on feeding them, putting them to bed, getting them exercise, all these things. So what can parents do outside of the hospital? So we came up with the Be Super Action Plan. And so B stands for boost yourself with super thoughts. This is that mindset component that you talked about. It's all about the growth mindset and believing that quality of life. Well, as you know, growth mindset began in educational research, or research on education. But we have moved it into the world of quality of life. The idea that quality of life is not set in stone. It's not just set simply by your genes, but there are things that we can do to change it. E stands for eat super fierce foods. We've talked about that. S stands for sleep super peacefully. So we talked about circadian health. And U stands for unleash your super strength. So that's all about physical activity. And for kids, it's not necessarily about going to the gym, although that's okay for kids too, but it's just about play, physical activity, getting outside. P is for practice super mindfulness. So this is about stress management and stress control. E is for engage your community, and this is that social support component. And then R is refresh your super surroundings, and this is about non-toxic home living. So the Be Super Action Plan is the cornerstone, is really the guiding philosophy of everything we do. And these are all things I talked earlier about, kind of growing in our own journey of empowerment and understanding what is in our control and what is not in our control. And so there are many things with Max's cancer that are out of our control, but there are a bunch of things that are within our control. And the Be Super actions, every single one of them, these are things that we can do and that we can practice every single day. And then just one other thought is, when you mentioned waking up in the morning and not feeling great, it's been, really since developing this in 2014, when I have days like that, I go back to the Be Super Action Plan and I think, which of these is out of alignment for me? Am I not socially? Am I not connecting in the right way with other people, or am I not getting the right sleep? So.
Can I just jump in and add really quick? In addition to the empowerment, this is what parents want is, what can I do at home? They also want to know they've done everything. They also want to know that they've turned over every stone. So there's those two aspects. But I think one of the things that is really, really most powerful about the Be Super Action Plan is, I just forgot.
Oh, Oh,
It'll come to you.
yeah.
It'll come to you. It'll come to you.
Right.
It will. It will.
So let me give you a little filler here. Then I'm sure it'll come to you. So on this show, Small Changes, Big Shifts, we're in our 7th season, and our tagline used to be "Put the odds in your favor," and I believe that's what the B
Super, yeah.
B Super does. And it's similar. You're just putting the odds in your favor that when shift happens, whether it's little c COVID or little c cancer, or maybe it's the big D, depression or anxiety right now that I want us to go to a little bit, that you put the odds in your favor. And we changed the tagline through COVID, through building rhythm and resilience. Because that's right now. We've got to build some resilience, and we got to find a rhythm to do that. I have to tell you, I have absolutely loved our conversation. Audra, did you remember it?
You read my mind, because it's exactly what I was going to say. Is that the B Super actions, the statistics for childhood cancer survivors are pretty grim, and quality of life only declines after treatment. And this is how we change the odds.
Yeah, we could change the odds. Well, I get little chills, and our listeners know that when I feel this right here, that's just the Holy Spirit talking right through you or right through me. And I want to tell you what she just said. We are changing the odds. And that's kind of what we want to do with this show. And some of you know who also is following our movement. You know, we have a foundation called Big Shifts Foundation, making generational change for 5 to 30-year-olds through whole person health. So how can people learn how to live mechanically, chemically, energetically, psycho-spiritually, so they can navigate through life more wholly with an H, or more vibrantly with a big capital V. So you guys are doing some amazing work, and you've given some great guidance to our listeners today. I'm going to encourage you. We put in the show notes some of these great resources. And if you get nothing out of this, whether you are fighting a battle of depression, anxiety, cancer, autoimmune, that covers about 90% of America right there, maybe 100% with the depression and anxiety right now. I really believe if you practice their Be Super model, you will put the odds in your favor. That when we get on the other side, and I want to encourage our listeners, we are going to get on the other side of this little C COVID. It's going to be a bit, but we are going to get on the other side, and you want to become through it more resilient. So I've loved our conversation today. What did I not ask you that you would like to share?
In the notes that came through to us, there was a thought that we might share a favorite quote.
We're going to close.
Would that be okay if I share it? Oh,
not yet.
Oh, not yet. Oh, got it. Okay.
but we're not going to let you out of a quote, because I've got a quote for you. I looked up just for you. All right. Yeah. But I know we had a few more questions. How can our listeners connect with you? Because remember, it's Celebrate, Guide, Connect. So we could actually be family, Justin, when you talked about connection. My business name is actually Your Wellness Connection. And it just dropped into my spirit. How do we help people reconnect? For all the listeners out there, I want you to know that you have the power to take back control of your own well-being in this moment, just by changing your mindset, just by putting in some of these Be Super. So how can our listeners connect more and maybe get involved with MaxLove Project?
So it would be wonderful to connect on social media. You can access our social media accounts through our website at maxloveproject.org. But we do have a really great campaign underway right now. And it might interest your listeners. It's called Fork, like the utensil, Fork Childhood Cancer. The website is forkchildhoodcancer.org. And we've created a race to the table. So on September 26th, we're going to have a virtual live event, and we normally have a gala in the middle of a working farm here locally, but because of COVID, we have changed and pivoted. We've opened this up to our families and community from around the world, and anyone can participate in it. It's a really wonderful campaign, and we will encourage you to cook along with us and gather with your family at home on 9/26. So forkchildhoodcancer.org is a great way to get involved right now. I would like to, if I can, just give a quick shout out to Kansas City.
Whoa, of course.
Love Kansas City.
Absolutely.
And my mother lived in Kansas City for a very long time. She works for Park University. So I'd love to say hi to all of our friends at Park University. And one of our dietitians that works with our families, Blakely Page, is actually located in Kansas City as well. So we're big fans. The city of fountains. It's a beautiful city, and we're really happy to be able to stay connected.
Well, I know
Also,
Blakely. I know
you
Blakely.
know Blakely.
And
You
I
do?
did, yeah, Blakely, and I did some classes at Park College. I moved to Kansas City in 1988 to go to chiropractic school, and I did finish up some of my sciences at Park College. So there, once again, there's that waffle. We're all connected.
Yeah. Yep.
Wonderful. Also, we would love for everyone to follow MaxLove Project on Facebook and on Instagram so that we can keep in touch. We love to reach out and feel the connections.
Well, we truly are all connected. I think that's one thing we're learning with this little C COVID. So I want to ask you just a couple more questions. I'm going to get to your quote. Maybe one more question. I'll get to your quote. I love that you're excited to share it, Audra. I think I have an idea what your medicine is for the world, but I believe everybody deep in their soul, they were given medicine. They were given some gift, some medicine that they can give to the world. What's yours, Justin?
Well, one of the big, I think, unexpected journeys for me in this whole Maxwell Project cancer journey was learning about the psychological, emotional, as you said, the psycho-spiritual aspect of all of this. I think I started out focusing just on food and sleep and exercise. And so I have really come to appreciate how important it is to really work on, dive into, accept our emotional worlds. And so I think if there was one medicine that I could just spread, I think it would be the ability to work with really high quality therapists to dig into our childhood stuff and to talk openly and honestly and transparently about our emotional wounds, about the emotional dynamics that continue to come up for us. And that has been one of the biggest surprises to me along the way, how healing that process can be. So I think that would be my medicine that I would want to spread.
Yeah, and for those listeners listening to this today, we've interviewed recently the CEO of the Hoffman Institute, Liza Ingrassi, who talked a lot about those childhood wounds that maybe, and it's not, we're not throwing our parents on the bus. They do the best job they can, but at some point you got to take responsibility. And the Hoffman Institute, they're doing a ton. They've also shifted online. They're doing some amazing things, and you could do an introductory weekend for pennies, really, to really start to get right with yourself. And I believe that will change your life. So Audra, what's your medicine for the world?
Connection.
That might be my medicine too. I never thought about using just one word, but I would say I have loved getting to know you two today. And hopefully if you're in Kansas City, I'll get a chance to connect with you. And once again, it's shout out to
Love to.
That'd be awesome.
Paul Long for connecting us. And he knew we would be a great friends, really, and probably immediately. You know what? I was going to skip this question, but it keeps coming to me. I'm not going to. We're having this big national debate about going back to school. And our teachers are anxious, our kids are anxious, our parents are anxious. Maybe Be Super probably would help everybody, but is there any advice that would really come to you like that you feel like you need to share today?
You want to go?
Well,
Go
yours might be more specific, but what is coming up for me, and I think this goes back to the emotional piece, is to run towards your feelings. So I know as a parent, we have so many anxieties and fears and anger, and there's so much. And I think we can often displace a lot of this onto school board officials or the local politicians or whoever else. And if we can just sit with our own feelings and really try to understand what's going on inside, and that we have a lot of fear, we have a lot of anger, we have a lot of frustration, and that it's okay. Right. Right. Run towards your feelings. So that is what's coming up for me, is that, you know what, we are in a situation that is beyond anyone's control right now. So let's go inside. Let's talk about it with others who are safe and supportive. Cry it out if we have to, but really, it's going to start inside. Yeah.
Well, and I'm going to come back to your quote here in just a second. You made me think of the wheel of support. And so in some of my teachings, we talk about the body. You're like a hub. You're the hub. You're the center of your support. And off that, you have used, like you said, you had your pediatric acupuncturist, you had your oncologist, you had your food person, you probably had maybe a naturopathic or a chiropractor or a psychotherapist or your minister or your pet. Everybody has some support around. Not everybody. Most people have support around them, and you have to take time to identify that. And I would say, if you've been thinking about adding a therapist to your support, now's a good time, or your minister, or a trusted girlfriend or trusted boyfriend that you could really dial in there. Absolutely. Well, run towards your feelings. Great advice today. Okay. Anything else that your spirit's telling you got to share before we go to the favorite quote?
Did you want to share something about the school thing? Because I
absolutely love what you said and about the school thing. If it comes up, my feeling has been, what can we do with this time? Can this time mean to us? And I've heard a lot of talk about what our children won't be getting, what won't be happening, and all of that is real, and run towards those feelings, like Justin said. And I guess for what's come up for me around this is precious time. We have so many opportunities with it. What can it be? So that's just what's come up for me. I know there's a lot surrounding it. There's a lot of inequality. There are a lot of societal challenges with this, a lot of hungry kids who need safe places to go. And we need to walk straight into that as well. But I think personally, I agree with you.
Gosh, we could go with this conversation on and on. You can't say something. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about Max. Yeah. So can you give us an update on Max?
Absolutely. So Max is in treatment. It's been almost exactly 9 years of a continuous journey with a brainstem tumor, largely inoperable. He is on a checkpoint inhibitor right now that is keeping the growth of this cancer that is kind of crowding out his lower brainstem right now and spinal cord. This inhibitor is working right now, but and as long as it can work, it's saving his life. We came very, very close to some really, really difficult decisions over the past few months, but the inhibitor has walked us away from that a little bit, which is amazing because it is saving his life. His quality of life is incredible. He's riding his bike. Right. He is writing and reading and playing games and playing with his sister and playing video games and living like a totally typical 13-year-old boy. Yeah. And that's a beautiful thing. And so he's doing well. And I believe
it's a testament to the Be Super plan. I mean, we really work the Be Super action plan with him. And he's a 13-year-old boy now. He doesn't really appreciate having to go to bed a little earlier than his friends, or having to eat slightly differently.
Or do push-ups and squats.
Which I'll do with it. I believe that it has really made a huge difference.
It's also a powerful journey because we have given him the tools to take his nutrition into his own hands and to make these decisions. We're there with him. We support him all along the way, but he's old enough now to really think about what he wants and what he feels like he needs and his body needs. And that's been a very powerful change from the 4-year-old that, we were caring for in a situation 9 years ago. So it's an amazing journey.
At some point you've got to feel empowered enough to take responsibility and not give your power
Right.
away to outside sources. So I love that. You know, I think you guys have changed the little C to a big C. And what comes to me is courageous. Thanks for having the courage. It's emotional. Thanks for having the courage to not only make your journey transparent, but help so many other people. I think you said 1,500 families around the globe. And I want to just acknowledge you for your courage and thank you for taking time. Okay, so now before I get more emotional, you know, I'm a big word nerd, and quotes help me stay in the game. And so, Audra, wait, Justin, do you want to share your quote first, or you share your quote together?
Audra, do you have your quote up? Because I have my quote.
Go for it.
All right. So my quote is from this wonderful psychotherapist, Dennis Tirch. And this quote is, when your mind wants to feel in control of an uncontrollable situation, it resorts to self-blame. If I were better, things would have been okay. But when we have set blame down and truly grieved, we can take our open and empty hands and pick up responsibility for living well and living right.
Would you send that to me? That'd be great.
Yes.
I'm sure my guy Zach's helping on the show, but he might not have got that. Hey, by the way, Zach, I love you. I appreciate you. All right, Audra.
Mine is by Viktor Frankl. Between stimulus and response, there's a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. And I think Viktor Frankl also said that the last enduring freedom is our freedom to choose our response. And that is that core of empowerment that we were talking about. That's the pin I had in empowerment Max was a victim of cancer the day he was diagnosed, but our response was our choice. And therein lies our empowerment.
Well, there's so much good stuff on today's show. Hopefully, you know, if you're not dealing with somebody with pediatric cancer or cancer, but we're all dealing, like I said, with that outside cancers, with the way we think and the end of our fork or that couch not getting out and moving. I hope that you will take away, if anything, at least take away the Be Super acronym and implement that in your life. So here's the quote I picked for you guys today. Not having not met you yet, but
no
actually,
way.
How about that? This is my guy. This is my guy, Zach. Anyhow, what I want to share with you is the quote that I picked for you as I was just reading about your story, prepping for the show, and it's by unknown. I couldn't find out who said it, but it said, "Hope shines brightest in the darkest moments." And you guys have helped bring hope to so many people, including your son. And you mentioned your daughter, and that's how. Your daughter, we don't know who's going to go on and do amazing things. Obviously, Max is, but your daughter, we don't know how she's going to change the world. So I want to say, hey, keep shining. Thanks for spending time with me on Small Changes, Big Shifts.
Thank
sending you
you.
really big hugs. All right, all of you, go out and make a change. Take back your power today.
I sure appreciate you listening to Small Changes, Big Shifts. If you go to the website, smallchangesbigshifts.com, we'll have the show notes ready for you there. If this episode inspired you to make a small change that will lead to a big shift, please share with a friend. You can catch our episode on Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and our website. And if you feel like it, please leave a rating or a comment. Be sure to subscribe so you can catch our episode next week. Blessings to you.